let's talk a little bit more about contract. The guiding principle being contract is by consent. So what happens when, for example, a foreign vessel in dry dock, i.e., a quote-unquote court, summons you? A foreign vessel in dry dock summons you to a location on a certain date at a certain time, and you don't show up. You don't go. You don't answer. You don't acknowledge it. What happens then? Well, in the fiction, they issue what's called a default judgment. Which, you know what D means, DE, right? Like defrost means no frost. De-escalate means no escalation. Default means no fault. There's no one at fault. So they issue a default judgment. They come to a conclusion without your say-so in the matter. So whatever they decide, whatever choice they make, has nothing to do with you. You didn't consent to whatever choice is being made because you didn't acknowledge it. Maybe you didn't even know about it. So how can anybody be at fault? Hence, that's why it's default judgment, no fault judgment. It's the same thing when someone sends you a certified or registered mail with where you have to quote-unquote sign for it in the fiction. If you don't sign for it, you never got it. So whatever's going on the other end, they will make that choice for you. They will issue a default judgment that has nothing to do with you. Now, in the fiction, this can get a little hairy, so to speak, a little messy, because the fiction can do things if you have fiction bank accounts, and by fiction I mean adverb, verb, adjective, pronoun, fiction babble based venues and things like that that are interconnected with the birth certificate system, banking system, through those modalities. And what I mean by that is, I'm just saying for an example, if you got a divorce in the fiction, because marriages in the fiction are, legal things. They're legal conditions of state. But if you get a divorce and you don't show up for a ruling for alimony, for example, then they can decide how much money you have to pay your ex-wife or your ex-husband, whatever the case may be. You have no say in it because it's a no-fault judgment, default judgment, and you didn't show up. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden thousands of dollars start getting automatically pulled out of your fiction bank account. This is an example I'm using. I mean, the same could be said for child custody and things like that. Those things can happen, yes, without your consent, because it is the fiction legal system. But with correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, that stuff doesn't happen. And it won't happen. It can't happen. Because the whole system of facts is not based upon things like that. It's based upon contract by consent. So when you see people like, there are certain folks, I won't name names, who make certain claims about disqualifying this individual or disqualifying that individual, or issuing arrest warrants for this or that individual, passing judgments upon individuals. That's all literal horseshit. all of it, holds no weight because it's all fiction nonsense. I can prove that it's fiction nonsense. How do you prove that? Show me one individual that has ever been made or forced to pay a fee, to pay an amount of money, or have ever gotten anything using correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. For example, someone who perhaps their house went into foreclosure and they lost their house, and then they used correct sentence structure, and now suddenly they have their house back. Show me one individual that that's happened to. Or if someone feels that they've been harassed and taken advantage of by the system, put in jail, had a car impounded or something, or taken away, and then they use correct sentence structure to sue for damages, and they get a sum of money using correct sentence structure. You're not going to find anything like that because it doesn't work that way. What correct sentence structure is for is stopping trespass. So if there's a damage occurring somewhere, correct sentence structure is 100% successful in stopping trespass and stopping damage from occurring or continuing to occur. But it's not used to get compensated for damages. No, I mean, it's if you have, theoretically, if you have a live life claimant like myself driving a vehicle, and I just happen to get into some sort of freak accident with another vehicle, and they are also a live life claimant, and maybe it's my fault, we'll say theoretically it's my fault, I can choose, through the balance of the honor and the grace, to pay the damages on that vehicle. Don't need to get fiction insurance and all that stuff involved. We can just take care of it, living being to living being. That's always possible. That can happen in correct sentence structure. But if I decide not to do anything, and I feel like it's not my fault, and I feel like I shouldn't have to pay that other individual anything, then they can't then use correct sentence structure to quote unquote sue me and get me to pay something. Because what are they going to do? Are they going to create their own court, use certified mail to summon me to their court and enforce me to pay? How are they going to do that? Do they have a police force? Do they have bailiffs? Do they have sheriffs? How are they going to make me pay? Are they going to put me in some quantum grammar jail like Mark lowercase k Sean Christopher used to talk about, which never existed? I mean, the quantum jail never existed. No, that's all fantasy land stuff. That doesn't work with correct sentence structure. Nope, the only way that the other individual could have any chance at getting any money or value out of me is to use the fiction system, the third-party system, to come after me to get it. In which case, I could then use correct sentence structure to stop that trespass, if it is a trespass. Now, if it is actually my fault, and I'm just being a jerk and I don't want to pay it, then the correct sentence structure is going to fall apart. I won't be able to use it to stop the trespass because I'm in the wrong. But if it was not my fault and it's their fault and they're trying to unjustly or maliciously sue for that type of damage, then correct sentence structure would be 100% successful. Do you get it, folks? Do you get the gist of it? It really does work under the auspices of maintenance of Rule 1, Rule Equal, balance of the honor and the grace, and position of peace and neutrality. It really does work that way. And anyone who tells you otherwise, I would say, is firmly positioned in the fiction system with fiction mentality. Because contract is by consent, folks. By consent. Period. End of story. In the context of correct sentence structure, I mean, in the fiction, to an extent, that's theoretically how contract should work. But we all know that that's usually not what happens in the fiction. Usually you're forced, or you feel like you're forced to do something. But always remember, folks, you have a choice. You have a choice to follow a mandate or not follow a mandate. You have a choice. You can make your own choice. You have to be cognizant of the consequences of these choices and have contingencies in place, but you do have a choice. Like during the medical emergency that happened a while ago, some folks feel they were coerced into getting certain medicines injected into them or losing their job, but they did have a choice. They had a choice in that matter. They feel they were forced into getting this medicine, but really they weren't, because they could have chose not to get it and not have that job. And you see a lot of times what happened in that situation is they got the job back eventually, and everything seemed to work out okay for the most part, or the way it's supposed to. Because I really think that, folks. I think that things work out the way they're supposed to work out. I really do think that. Whether at the time you think it's not a good thing or whatever, but it's probably the best thing that the cosmos could do for you at that moment in time. I do feel like that. So keep that in mind. And I'm talking to all you bullies out there, narcissists, sociopaths. This is the way correct sentence structure works. And it's not going to work for you. All right? The only thing that can work for you, that has a chance of working for you, is the fiction system, which is what you are firmly ensconced in. It will always be. And that's why you can do nothing to harm folks like me, who actually use correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. So, I mean, you're going to have to go somewhere else and pick on somebody else, because it's not going to work on those of us who use the grammar and follow those three principles that I was talking about. Contract is by consent. Period. End of story. Que sera, sera.